So welcome, David.
Thank you so much. I'm so pleased to be here. Really looking forward to our chat.
Me too, because it's well, I don't know. I don't even know where to start. It's so intense, and and I don't want this to be an intense podcast. Let's talk about the great stuff as well. But to you've been through some amazing stuff, and when I say amazing, not in a good way, but I often think that these things we go through that cause a lot of adversity, I often think they build us up to be better people. But by geez, it's a hard thing moving through the shit, to get out the other side. But we'll dig really deep into your PTSD and how that happened and how you've come out the other side. And you're helping so many other people, and we need people. God, we need people like you on this planet, I'll tell you.
Thank you. I just do what I do. If I can help people and get the word out there, then fantastic. If I can inspire just one person to overcome, then I've done my job.
Yeah. You're such an Aussie saying that, oh yeah, nah, it's just I'm not really doing anything special, but I love it. But take us back, because you were a businessman, but you were also in the police force for a long time. And tell us about that. Like, why did you decide to do these tough jobs? Because it takes a bit to say, well, I'm going to be a cop and then I'm going to go to the military, and what sort of upbringing did you have to inspire that?
I think a lot of it in what we do in life comes from our background, our upbringing. My father was ex-military. His dream was to become a cop. My grandfather was military. So from the very first day that I can remember, all those years ago, that it was very military and honor kind of centric. Yeah. So it was just like a natural progression, I think, for me to go in it. And my father was really proud. He wanted to kick on, but he didn't get in, didn't pass all the exams and all the rest of it, the height to weight and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So I kind of went through it. And looking back, I may have lived my grandfather and father's life to some extent through me. And I thought, I'll do it. And when I got into it, it's like self-doubt, Karen. Everyone has this self-doubt. I can remember distinctly driving up to the police academy, and I thought to myself, am I going to be strong enough? Am I going to be smart enough? And am I going to be tough enough? And I kind of, I did really well through all the tests and the physical tests and things like that. But I still had that doubt, which was, no matter who we are, we always have that doubt. What can I get through this? Will I be able to do this? Will I be able to do that? Where will I have trouble? And I kind of breezed through it really, but I still had that doubt, which is, really interesting. So I joined there. Then I decided to, I was in uniform for a short time. Then I went to detectives. Then I went to covert operations and spent most of my time in covert operations. It was kind of like being a cop without being a cop as well. So I spent a lot of time in there. Then joined the military for a while, which was the commandos. Had a few injuries, so I didn't spend too much time in there. Then I left the police. Then because of that training and because of what I was good at, I went into private security, and it was the private security of high risk stuff. So I was working with celebrities. I was working with high net worth people, looking after them, doing a lot of overseas stuff. So it was like a continuation of that, but it kind of piqued my interest in business, because I saw all these people that were living a relatively good life, and their mindset was not totally different, but it was very much different from what I'd been used to. I'd been used to people being motivated and wanting to get the job done, but in a different field, So I think those two things really meshed together. So then I decided to go back into the police. I then started to lose my confidence for some reason. I couldn't understand why. Then I started getting nightmares. I started getting anxiety. I started getting stress, panic attacks, and I thought, what's going on here? But in those sort of organizations where everyone is, 10 foot tall and bulletproof. And looking at some of the stuff that I'd done prior to this, I thought, wake up to yourself. This is silly. I mean, there's one particular situation where we got into a firefight and there were rounds flying everywhere. And at the end of it, I just thought to myself, oh, look at this. My hand is dead set straight. I've got no feelings whatsoever. I'm not stressed. I'm not scared. Like, how good am I? That is fantastic. But as I basically had my issue and then went through all the rehab of it, I realized that what that was doing was I was totally disassociating from it. And once I learned that, I kind of, I understood that, I was my emotions couldn't work through it because it was just so much on top of everything else. They kind of speak that the average person has a gauge, and throughout that day, that gauge, it might go up to 4 or 5, really stressful day, a 7. Then that day finishes and it goes back to 0. Where with people that had anxiety and, PTSD, that gauge goes to 9 and comes back to 7. So they're always at that really high point. And then one day I just basically collapsed on the floor, sobbing, and kind of picked myself up and tried to get back into it. I would be out at a restaurant with my wife and all of a sudden just have a giant anxiety attack and end up locking myself in the bathroom. So then I thought something's wrong here, and I just went into more and more of a decline. My wife was getting more and more worried about me. In fact, she used to come home I was off sick because I obviously couldn't work. She would come home with the kids, go into the driveway, honk on the horn, and that was for my sign to come out. And that was, or open the door. And that was kind of a little ritual we did, because she said that if I honk and you don't come out, I'm not letting the kids in. I'm going to go in myself. So I kind of got to that. That was that bad. I basically didn't leave my house for probably 3 months. Any little noise, anything would just trigger me. Got referred to a doctor who specialized in PTSD. And what I did, Karen, was I did exactly what he said. A lot of people with mental illness and PTSD, anxiety, and all those associated things, they will hit the alcohol, hit drugs to try and self-medicate, try and get out of themselves. I did it to start with, but then my doctor said, David, what I don't want is I don't want you to come through this as much as you can, and then you're at a certain level, whatever level that's going to be, and then we've got all these other issues that we're going to have to address. I want you to stop doing it, which I did. And then I started getting back into training. I started, as I said, doing everything that he said, and basically rebuilt myself. I'd always been involved in motivation, self-development. I've read all the books, been doing it since I was 20, and I used all that for the specialist of what I did in my occupation. So as a natural progression, when I decided to really hone down and say, look, I want to build myself up to be the best person I possibly can. I don't want to be the type of person that, you see walking down the road and you think that poor man, that poor woman, head down, shoulders slumped. I wanted to have the best life I possibly could. So I did that, and I've done that, but it's not over. I still have heaps and heaps of triggers in life that I know that I'm going to be triggered by something. I won't look at it. I won't hear it. Basically, I don't look at the news. I don't read newspapers because little things can trigger. I had a particularly nasty incident where I was involved in an investigation where there was about 14 or 15 people killed. And they didn't have the facilities at the morgue to transport them all. So they transported them in a refrigerated truck. And because it was a big truck, they couldn't back the truck into the receiving dock at the morgue and, respectfully take all the bodies off. They had to kind of put them halfway in the driveway, and we had to basically go for probably 200-300 meters with the bodies and wheel them along. And that really affected me. And the smell really affected me. Anyway, it's probably about 2 or 3 years now, but we're driving down the highway. I saw a refrigerated truck in front of us, and bang, it was enough to trigger me. So you can't really say, what is going to trigger you, because it was something so foreign to what I had experienced, but bang, it just triggered me. So,
but still so associated, though. There's still that association, isn't there? That,
Oh, absolutely, yeah, absolutely, and it doesn't make sense a lot of the time. The association. It can be a particular suburb. It can be a particular piece of equipment, and it will trigger you. So the idea, it's like fear. People always have fear. Fear doesn't go, but you've just got to learn to control it and then move forward with it. And that's kind of the way I look at it with the PTSD as well. It's a matter of, I've got it. It's never going to go away, but it's up to me to control it the best I can and make sure that I don't expose myself to triggers.
Yeah, God, it's hard though. Were you in the military before you joined the police, or was it?
In between.
In between.
Okay. In between.
So when you said you were, okay. So, and you did, you were also a paratrooper, or you were paramilitary,
Yeah. And paramilitary is when I went into security, and the high-end security. Most of the guys, well, not most of the guys, all of the guys and girls were either ex tactical police or ex military, because of the stuff that we were doing. So yeah, that was interesting. I met a lot of very interesting people. At times it was like the Wild West, but but at times there was, Karen, I've been together with former Navy SEALs. I've been together with former SAS guys. I've been together with a gentleman who was a former Belgian Special Forces. And we were all together, we're having a few drinks, and then it's just like something shifted, and all of us basically spoke, let our souls out. There were tears everywhere. There was a lot of man hugging going on, and to a lot of people, it was like people would look at it and go, "Hang on, these guys are trained guys who we think that they've got this kind of status amongst them, basically crying together like babies." So it doesn't matter who you are or what you are. The PTSD can get you. And I've had people say to me, "Oh, so-and-so had one incident and that was it." Well, you don't know what their background is. You don't know what their triggers are. So yeah, you can't really say, because someone has been to one incident, that's going to be enough. That is not enough, I should say, to trigger your PTSD.
Yeah.
But look, people with PTSD don't want to have it.
Yeah.
I would not. Yeah, I would not wish it on anybody.
Yeah.
And because it's a silent thing, it's or a non-visual thing. If someone had lost an arm, lost a leg, been shot up, and they were walking down the road, people would say, "Oh, poor guy, look at that." But when you've got PTSD through your trauma exposure, it's like, look, he's going to the movies. Yeah. He or she is going to the movies, but the first time they've been out of their house in 6 months, they're seeing the 11 a.m. session, so they're not seeing that 8 p.m. session with a ton of people. They're with their partner. It's probably the safest way they can do it, but at least they're out there trying to get back into society. So yeah, it's kind of like it's a really strange situation where people will have a look at, as I said, people look at someone who's had a physical injury and then go, "Oh, poor person." But when you've got a mental injury, it's not quite the same. People will say, "Oh,
I know. I used to
teach
disability, and I used to say the same. What would you rather? Because people with autism suffer this quite a lot. Is that people, they look, and I'll say the word normal, but I don't mean that. They just look like anything else, and so people have higher expectations of them. So when they have a meltdown, it's kind of like, well, I didn't expect that from that person, but if you've got Down syndrome on your wheelchair, there's all that extra empathy that's built in, because, it's just the right thing to do is to have the empathy or sympathy for people with disabilities, but it's the invisible ones that can really cause a lot of discrimination, a lot more discrimination. And so,
Absolutely.
yeah, I think. No, go.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go.
I know exactly what you mean. My former stepson had autism, and I know exactly what you mean by that. Yeah, exactly what you mean by that.
And we shouldn't do that. Like, we shouldn't judge people just by appearances. It's not until we really get to know someone, and really have a conversation with somebody, that we can, truly know who they are. And it's we're very quick to visually assess people and decide whether we like them or not, or make judgments about them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things a gift that I'll take away from my PTSD is empathy. I now have so much more empathy for people than I did before. I was, we're all 10 foot tall, we're all bulletproof. Like, get over yourself. But now I realise that no, that's not the case.
No, and we're all human. When you say you're bulletproof, like, everything you've described, the paramilitary, the commandos, the police, all of that stuff, it's kind of like big bravado stuff, really. I'm infallible, and that's the way I am. And but you saw your best, one of your best mates killed in front of you, and lost a couple of others. What does that do? And I don't want to bring this up if it's going to be too hard for you. Only go where you can. But
yeah.
What does that do for this 10-foot tall man? That suddenly can't protect someone, suddenly can't take care of someone, suddenly has no control over a situation. You're not 10 foot tall anymore. Well, what does that do for your spirit? How did that affect you?
Well, Karen, it was quite, there's a little bit deeper in with my friend Addo, the guy that was killed. He actually took 6 months off leave without pay. And he came to me when that 6 months time was coming up. He and his wife started a business, and he came back to me and he said, "Can we have lunch?" I said, "Yeah, sure, fine." So we did. And he said, "Look, I'm really missing it. I want to come back." I said, "Well, look, if that's the way you feel, come back." And then probably 3 months later, he was killed. So I had to kind of grasp the fact that it wasn't my fault, but a lot of people would think, and a lot of people would have a big guilt trip about being your fault. To tell you the truth, Karen, in that situation, you got on with it. It wasn't until afterwards that it kind of started to affect me a little bit more, because when you're in that situation, you're not processing it the same as what you would when you're out of it. So I know that may sound a little bit,
that makes sense.
a little bit strange, but yeah, once you're in that and you're part of the camaraderie, you're part of that that spirit, if you wish, you kind of say, okay, well, that's really sad, that's happened. And it was terrible. I mean, I was at the funeral and basically crying for 2 hours over it. All of us were. But it was kind of something you said, well, we knew what was going to happen when we signed that piece of paper. These things happen. But it's kind of, now you look at it and go, well, wow, most people don't have that in their life. That's so foreign to most people. So yeah, I processed that and had to get through it. One of the worst things that happened to me was I had a body fall on me, and it was been dead for probably about 5 or 6 days, maybe 7 days. Landed on my face. I couldn't communicate with the rest of my team because I knew that if I opened my mouth, then I would have got sick. So that was one of the things that really affected me. But yeah, we get over these. We don't get over these things, but we move forward on these things.
So do you think it's a combination of all of these things that just build and build and build like a pressure cooker? And then it was there one specific thing that just that was it? Just
no.
So
no. Yeah, I kind of, looking back, I knew that I was operating on a high level of stress. I was doing everything that I possibly. I've always been really physical. I've always trained a lot of my life. I had that training. I did suffer a back injury, which stopped just prior to really having my breakdown, which stopped me doing a lot of my training. And I don't know if that was the catalyst for my body just to go, David, I've had enough. We need a break here. So yeah, I don't know whether if I didn't have that back injury, whether I'd still be still would have got through it. But look, Karen, I've got to look at it as a gift in one way, because I get to speak to people now, I get to help people. So I kind of look at it as a gift. Who knows what would have happened if I stayed in.
I just think that we're human, you know, and I know that we can build ourselves up with strategies, and that's what you're doing for people now, you know, is helping them like that. But at the same time, we've got to learn, we've got to find better ways to be more gentle on ourselves, you know, because we're like, oh yeah, don't worry about it, that shit happens, you know, I'll just push through it. And I've been very guilty of that, you know, and it's kind of eventually it's going to bloody get you, you know, it's going to
absolutely.
get you. And we're going to be much better at, you know, particularly with emotional intelligence. It's just saying, this is how I feel. And even if it's just saying it to yourself, acknowledging it, you know, and getting those emotions out on the table. But what I just want to read this out. This is a statement that you say, it's in your, you know, in your stuff.
Okay.
Well, when you were, you know, you saw the doctors, and plenty of doctors said, well, he's got PTSD, and, you know, and he's not coming back to work, and what have you. But there was this statement, and I want to read it out because it's kind of like, wow, what a freaking kick in the guts. The likelihood of him returning to any form of meaningful employment, unlikely, and sadly, his prognosis is very guarded, in that he is likely to remain a man continually troubled by the aftermath of his trauma exposure for many years to come. So it's kind of, in a sense, writing you off. How did that impact you when you read that statement? It's almost like it disassociates from you, but it is you. And like, what does that do to you when you read that?
Yeah, it was written for another, like a part of the organization. So I didn't get that at the time. I got that a little bit later. And it was like, I kind of knew it, but I think when I started my treatment with my doctor, he basically didn't pull any punches. Probably appointment number 4. He says, David, you do realize that you're not going to go back to what you were. So it was I was kind of expecting it anyway. I didn't know what my level was going to be. And that's the thing as well, you know, because, you know, Jill and Jack has PTSD, and they remain locked in their house. There's no difference between them and me, you know what I mean? Because everyone's on a different level. Probably the difference is that I kind of chose to do what I possibly could to build myself back, as in stop the drinking, stop the drugs, and all the rest of it. Yeah. So I kind of knew it was coming. I knew it was going to be, but really what I thought when I read that was, I thought, F that.
Yeah, good.
Okay. And I know what the F everyone's thinking. It wasn't that, it was fear. That I kind of had so much fear that my life was going to be virtually shallow for however many years I had left on the earth. So I thought, no, you know, it's kind of like throw a challenge at me and I will challenge that challenge. So yeah, and who knows, Karen, really, I don't know where I would have been, how I would have been. Yeah, I mean, people look at me now and they say, oh, David, you speak on stage. The average person, it's one of the most frightening things that can happen to them.
Yeah.
But there's times when I've actually gone to a gig, and I've almost had a breakdown in the car going there. So when I'm there, I'm kind of fine, but because that's not really a trigger. That's like a normal thing that everyone has fear for. So I've moved through that. So yeah, it's not really a trigger, and we just do the best we can. Yeah.
Winston Churchill used to collapse before every speech. You know, a lot of people don't know that. He actually used to collapse. So, and public speaking, a lot of people say, well, it's you know, I'd rather die than do public speaking. But I love it.
Yeah.
Give me a stage.
Absolutely. A friend of mine, he's been doing it for 42 years, all around the world in front of thousands and thousands and thousands. And he said to me quite recently, actually, oh, I'm a little bit nervous. I said,
Yeah.
we're speaking in front of 100 people here, my friend. He goes, yeah, I don't know. I just get a bit nervous. So yeah, it happens with it. I think the time where you're not nervous, you're going to be like, well, you don't really care. You shouldn't be there. I mean, there's always going to be that little bit of, but not outright scared.
Yeah, that's what I think too. People say that to me. You're worried? I'm like, nah. Are you anxious? Nah. Are you nervous? Oh, well, I've got a little bit of edge, and I reckon that little bit of edge and that that little bit of excitement and that kind of buzz, that's what makes you want to do the best job you can do, which is exactly what you said.
Yeah.
If you're not nervous, you don't give a shit, and it's
exactly.
And exactly. people who are there to listen to you deserve for you to give a shit. They really do.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
So you've been through all this, and then you start rebuilding yourself. You're saying you do what the doctor said. You take it on challenge. I know this is not going to define me. I'm going to blah blah blah. I'm going to make it. At some point, then you've started writing books. So you've people in your situation could be. Well, I've been through this PTSD. I'm seeing a doctor. I've just got to stay in survival mode, because I've just got to get through and take care of myself. But you've taken it that one step further, is to, how can I now take care of other people and share what I know with other people, because I don't want other people to feel alone. But so you've got 3 books. So you've got Positive Thinking, Attitude of Success, and Capture Your Dreams and Smash Your Fears, which is the last one. So at what point, did you have that realization that I've got a book in me? I mean, now you've got 3, but, there's that first one. like, I've got a book in me. Or was it a book is a great way to get to many people? Like what sort of triggered you to say, that's it, I'm writing a book?
Yeah, I think when you're involved in something, you're involved in it. So you don't really, I've raced cars as well. And when I was in that, sure, every time you strap yourself in, you realize there's a little bit of danger there. But once you're in that organization, once you're in that scene, you kind of take it for granted. And I took a lot of the stuff that I did and a lot of the learnings for granted until basically I've got a mentor, and I basically approached him and said, this is my story, what do you think? He said, come with me, my friend. And then he said, look, you don't hide yourself under a rock. You've got a lot to offer. You've got gifts to get out there to people. People can learn a lot from you. In fact, you could probably save lives. I was kind of like blown away by all that. So I thought, yeah, well, let's put this book together. Let's write about it. I've touched a little bit on the PTSD and the journey in there, but they're basically business books on how to succeed in business, what to do, how to do it, why to do it. A lot of it is mindset stuff, because let's face it, Karen, if people were to write down their 5 favorite entrepreneurs, you're going to have different sexes, you're going to have different ages, different races, different everything. But the one thing they're all going to have is the mindset. They're going to have pretty much the same mindset. So I thought, well, if I can help people with mindset, which is what I do a lot now, how good is that? I can get the book out there, and I can speak to a lot of people through my books. So that's basically how they eventuated. And
and books give you a stage as well. It gives you the business card to get on a stage. And once you're doing that, you got a lot more ears listening. And I agree with that, saving a life. We don't know, like what we put out there, 99% of the time, we don't know how it's impacted somebody who's heard something, and I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that any of us who are, sharing feelings and sharing emotions, sharing stories that are deep, I do believe it saves lives. I absolutely do, and we might not ever get to. I used to be a teacher, and I've had 3 of my ex-students that were young say to me that I saved, they were thinking about ending it, and that my care for them, saved their life. And One student even said to me at the end of the year, she said, I made a decision at the start of the year. If you were a shit teacher, I was going to finish my life. If you were a good teacher, I was going to stay. And I sort of made a joke, and I said, well, thank God I'm a good teacher. But
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
that haunted me. Do you know, I thought to myself, Christ, you know, this is why we've got to put our best foot forward all the time, because we don't know who the hell we're impacting. And I love what you said. I love what you said before too. You said about when we do things and we're immersed in it. I say immersed, you say involved, you know, but the same thing. We're so deep in it that we forget what we know. We take it for granted, you know.
We do.
Just recently I was talking to someone and I'm like, yeah, but, you know, that's boring stuff. Someone was saying to me, just share that. And I'm like, that's boring stuff. And everybody knows that. I don't even know what I know that's bloody special. And
That's right.
It's true. And somebody gave me a kick in the butt and said, for Christ's sake, Karen, don't you get, people don't know this. And I was at a workshop, running a workshop, and I did something that I thought was common knowledge. I put it up on the board and I said, everyone's familiar with this, aren't they? And I turned around and almost all the room had a blank look on their face, like they'd never seen this model before. And I was like, what have I missed? How can it be that these people don't know something that, and that really, it was about that same time someone gave me a kick in the ass and said, you can't just assume, because you've been on this planet for a long time, as you and others, drawing all this information experience. But so what can people expect when they read your books? I know you first said, I know you said that it was business and mindset. That was for the first, is that the first two? And the second one the third one seems to be different to me. It's got a different energy about it. Capture your dreams and smash your fears. Am I right?
I kind of wrote that one during the lockdowns. I thought, well, here we are. We're locked in our apartments, our houses for however long. So I decided to jump into that one, and that one is just a whole heap of stories and a whole heap of illustrations on how things happen, how people react to them, and the way that you can work through them. So it's kind of like a how-to book of life, of business. It's still got that business part of it in there, but yeah, there's a lot of quotes in there, a lot of stories of myself and friends. And we spoke a little bit earlier about the mindset issue, and there's quite a few illustrations of mindset where people didn't have the right mindset, moved through it, and then went out there and achieved. So yeah, it's kind of like an instruction manual on life and business, really.
No, that sounds fantastic. But it's also the title of your podcast.
No,
it's not actually. No, I've completely stuffed that up. But no, right. For anyone listening, don't go and look it up, because I buggered that right up.
Dreamers, Believers, and High Achievers is the podcast. And that, again, I've kind of used that a little bit in people dream, people believe. I put that believe part in there because I kind of believe that what I would be doing would get me back to the best person I possibly could be. And High Achievers is, I don't care whether someone's, Elon Musk as far as business is concerned, or whether someone has gone through absolute hell on earth and has basically rebuilt their life, and they're working in the local shop. We're all different, and everybody is great. I don't judge, and I'm sure most people don't judge someone by how much money they make, how much fame they've got, and ridiculously how many Insta followers they've got, because we don't know where people start. And there's some amazing people out there, and I'm really blessed to be able to speak to them, almost daily. It's fantastic. Yeah. So just basically, we don't know where people start from, so don't judge where they end.
100%. That I agree with you about the podcast. I love to speak to so many people, and the stories, the richness, that's buried within each person. And like we said before, we take that for granted. We actually don't realize that our story has got so many gold nuggets that somebody else can you benefit from, and it's
Yeah.
I love it. So
Yeah.
I said that incorrectly if anyone's listening. So the book is Capture Your Dreams and Smash Your Fears, and the other two books are Positive Thinking, Attitude of Success. Now the podcast is Dreamers, Believers, and High Achievers. So go and have a listen to that. But I want well, hang on. I'm getting a bit confused because I've got about 10 bloody things going through my mind. But what I want to ask you really is, like, you're working with a lot of organizations as well, because you're doing your speaking, your books, your podcasts, and you're doing a lot of mindset work with organizations. And you love to really dig deep, rather than look at the surface stuff. They think this is wrong, but you dig much deeper to really find what's going on in there. Is there a theme that keeps emerging, as to what's buried deeper in organizations that's preventing them from flourishing?
Yeah, absolutely. And most of it, I think, comes back to their peers growing up, their parents growing up, and what they were exposed to growing up. I recently had a guy who came to me, and he wanted to, wasn't 10x, he wanted to, I think his dream was to 5x his business. His business was doing really, really well. And he had already had another coach that he kind of dealt with and went, oh, okay. He got put onto me. I spoke with him on the phone for about an hour. And I just kept on asking these questions. And it was all about his childhood. And I basically discovered that it was his mum and dad saying, rich people are bad. People who make money only make money by ripping people off, all that sort of stuff. And that was actually holding him back in his business to build it. So and he actually said to me, David, I've had more of a breakthrough in this 1 hour than I had with 3 months with the other guy. And I'm not saying anything that I'm better or whatever, but I just think I asked the right questions. And I think I asked the right questions because I've been there. I've been there with my PTSD. I've been there with my past. So yeah, it's basically the fear of putting yourself out there, the fear of what your friends, your family will say, and your upbringing. So powerful. So powerful. Will hold people back. I mean, rich people are bad. Money's bad. This is bad. They only think of themselves. In my experience, I found that most people that are doing fairly well in life give back a lot. They give back in their time. They give back in money. That's just what I have found. I'm not sure whether the people I'm working with and the people I associate are in that space. And there's other people without that, out of that area that, hold their money and are selfish with their time and money. But I found that most people are fairly open and willing to help anybody. I am totally amazed by how many high achievers out there, if you give them a phone call, you give them a contact, they're willing to talk to you.
Yeah,
where
absolutely.
The average person just goes, well, who am I to contact so-and-so? Who am I to send them an email? Sure, these people are really busy, but have a go. If you don't have a go, you're not going to get anywhere. So take that shot and look for a mentor, look for someone who can help you out with it, because life is too big for us to learn by experience, and no one's going to learn by our own experience. So heck, let's learn by other people's experience.
Yeah.
So that's the common theme, is that mindset and their background and what they were exposed to growing up.
Inherited beliefs about, I've had to push through that too. And my parents are great parents, but and I shouldn't say but, there's no, like, they are great parents. When we were growing up, they did say things. Money doesn't grow on trees. They never said anything bad. They never said anything bad about rich people, but it was like, money doesn't grow on trees. We can't afford it this week. If we can't afford to go on holidays, if we had the money, and there was a lot of that kind of talk, and we weren't that wealthy. We weren't well off. But I think plus also there was that stupid nursery rhyme thing, Monday's child is full of face, Tuesday's full of grace. I can't remember the bloody thing, but I was born on Saturday. I used to know it.
Okay.
I used to know. And Saturday's child works hard for a living. And so, like, every time a kid was born, my mum or whatever would just happily rant off this bloody this thing, and I'd be like, oh, Monday's they're full of face, they're nicer than me. Do you know? So you'd have all these comparisons, and me being a Saturday's child, oh damn it! From a young age, I was set up to believe, not directly or not, no one willingly set this up. It was my thoughts. That the only way I'm gonna work my ass off for the rest of my life because I was born on a Saturday. It takes a lot. It takes a hell of a lot to
it does
budge that stuff. And
oh yeah.
Yep. Even when you know it's a crock of shit, it still sits in there. And
yeah. Well, I mean, we're exposed to it from the time we're like 0 to the time that whatever time we leave home. So it's a lot of time for that to be reinforced. Yeah, sure, we've got neuroplasticity. We can, lay down new pathways, but it's really strong. It's a really strong ropes. It's really strongly rooted to you. Yeah.
It really is.
And I'm not saying for any minute that our parents and our relatives and our friends have gone, let's get little Johnny and stuff him up for the rest of his life. They don't know, they don't know, and they're exposed to it. So it's passed down. Because look, a little baby doesn't come out on their very first day they're born with a mindset. They have to learn that mindset. And where do they learn it from? Their friends, family, and peers.
Yeah, and I also believe we hear a lot in utero too. That forms our things. So
yeah, definitely.
Definitely. We could go on about this for hours because bloody hell, it is such a deeply entrenched issue. And it's bloody hard to budge mindset. But I always think if we can just move the needle that's in the right direction just slightly each day, just keep nudging it, it eventually gets some momentum. But it's a tough gig because we're going against everything we've always done. But now,
yeah, exactly.
I've loved this, absolutely loved it. I'm gonna get off the bench. I want people to just get off that bloody bench. And I'm not saying it like people are lazy or, but we've got one bloody life. It's short. You've seen that. And it's, we don't know how long we've got, and we don't want to live a life that's full of inherited beliefs and feeling shit about ourselves and all that sort of stuff. So I want people to get off the bench and just bloody throw themselves at life and just give it the best bloody shot. Now, there's going to be people with PTSD, and I don't believe. No, I can't say that. That's not coming to mind anyone that I've had with such a strong story of PTSD, but I bet there has been someone else. There's going to be a lot of people with PTSD that are blocked and held back and sitting there and were paralyzed essentially, and thinking that, and they might be trapped in their house because of triggers and that sort of stuff. But I don't believe that. Just because your house has got walls around it doesn't mean you can't do stuff. You can still write a book. You can still, coach people on Zoom. There are still things that you can do. What's your best tip to help people with PTSD to start believing in themselves again so that they can regain something about their beautiful self?
Yeah, interesting. I remember I had a session with a psychiatrist and a psychologist, and I forget exactly what it's called at the moment, but they take you back to the events. Anyway, these two took me back to the events, and I totally blacked out as to how long I was there for, but they've said stop, and I said, kind of stop. We don't want to do this. We can't do this. We've had enough. We don't want to know anymore. And I just thought to myself, am I really that stuffed up?
Wow.
I think what it is to take those baby steps. You can't, if you're in your house and you can't get out, don't go to the football on Saturday night to watch Richmond and the Swans with 85,000 people. Do it in small little increments. Do what your doctor's doing, but also have a look at some of the other things that are out there. I was blessed because my doctor had a set of cerebral exercises that had to do with balance. And I did those. And I think that was really good in bringing myself forward as well. He couldn't get funding for it because, heck, it's not a drug.
Yeah.
No one's going to make money out of it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really supported that much. But yeah, I just think it's believe in yourself and be kind to yourself. That's something really, really, really crucial, is be kind to yourself. That it's not your fault what's happened to you, whether it was a one incident or whether it was over a set of years. It's not your fault. You didn't cause it. You didn't cause the other person to act the way they acted, or you didn't what you saw, whether you're in emergency services or military, or it's a natural reaction. Humans aren't designed to see death, catastrophe, severed limbs, all that sort of stuff all the time. So just be gentle with yourself. Do the best you can to get off the alcohol and the drugs. That's not going to help. That doesn't help anybody. You change your state for a short time, but in the long run, it's not going to be beneficial for you. So yeah, baby steps, work through it, be kind to yourself, and also communicate with other people.
Love it.
Yeah. Obviously, there's the medical side of it as well, with what your doctors, prescribing for you and teaching you. So yeah, just follow what they say, follow what they do. It's like if you go to a personal trainer and the personal trainer says do this, this, and this, you'll do it. So there's no difference with your PTSD journey. Do what you're told, and then work through it all. Because there's better days ahead, and no one guarantees that you're going to be pre-PTSD or pre-anxiety. But heck, give it your best shot. Give it your best shot. And I know it's hard. I've been down in the depths of despair. I've been down in depression. I've been suicidal, the whole lot. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. Keep moving forward, tiny steps.
Yep, and just know, although you don't know, but that you are a very valuable soul, valuable human being. We don't know it when we're in those states, but I wish people could see it. But David, I love what you're doing to help people, and it's just, thank you for sharing your journey, because it's often these things are things that we won't talk about, because of shame and pride and, and all that kind of stuff. And we keep that stuff. It's a feeling of weakness. I'm not going to share it in case people think I'm weak, but we need more people to share, because we need people to feel, that someone else gets them and they're not alone and that kind of stuff. So I love what you're doing, and I would love people to, follow you and book you for, work and coaching and whatever they want to reach out to you for, because I just think you're
always here.
Genuine
always here.
soul, beautiful soul. So where can people find you?
I've got my socials, which is Instagram and Facebook, which is David C. Lee Official. So it's David C. Lee Official. I've got the podcast, Dreamers, Believers, High Achievers. Website is davidclee.com. And of course, I've got the books that are available on Amazon. That's basically, So hit me up on any of those. Happy to chat with you. Happy to work through, do what I can for you. Yeah. It's been a pleasure. And like I said at the beginning of it, if we can reach out and help people, how fantastic is that? Yep.
That's what we're put on this earth for, I reckon, is to just
absolutely. I've served in a different way all my life, and now I'm serving in a different way now. But I tell you what, this really, really, really gets me going. I love what I'm doing now. It's so special.
I agree. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to put all those links in the show notes, and I hope people
wonderful. Thank you so much.
It's been
thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, my
pleasure.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
You're just beautiful. So we'll stay in touch. So thanks so much, David.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Take care now. Bye, everyone.
Ta-da.
Bye.